Hi there crafters, Louise with you today. Thanks for checking out this video. It is another using Flower Emporium, and it has been something on my mind that I haven't actually used a white background or created with any mixed media for this particular collection. One of my favorite things to do is to create this kind of paper cluster, and I'd like to do it before I create my mixed media background because sometimes I don't know how much the paper cluster is actually going to take up. And so I like to have a bit of an idea of the photo and the elements and how it's going to sit on the page before I actually start to build my mixed media background so that I can work around that. And you'll see how that comes together. This is actually a really great way to use up paper scraps and little bits and pieces from the ends of your collections. I know I'm not quite there yet, but essentially taking a photo and auditioning pieces. So when I say audition, holding them up behind the photo to see if they suit, to see if they fit, to see if the building of the cluster around the photo actually pulls your eye in, lets you use up lots of little bits and pieces and gets them into a collection. So I didn't start off with anything in mind for this one. I just knew that I had to have a white background, I had to get my mixed media on, so I had to use some elements from Stash, and the best way to do that was to create this paper cluster to go on top of the page. So a few little tags, there's a little banner in there with some leftover pieces. I have a bit of a look through the collection to see if there's anything there that I want to keep incorporating, but at this stage I'm quite happy with this background. Now, at the moment, all I've used is paper, so I haven't used any embellishments as yet. And so now this is why I don't necessarily attach every element of the background cluster paper, because I want to be able to tuck a few things in and around just to see what works and what fits and how I can sort of enhance and embellish around the collection. Now I need to go and find my notepad cutter, so it did go walkabouts and I had to go on a bit of a hunt, but essentially this little punch will just punch out that sort of card look on that side, and I love the way this looks. I think it's really cute. It's very easy to do, and it just adds texture without being too much for the layout or the cluster. All right, so this is looking great. I really like this. I've got a bit of an idea of how I'm going to embellish this. I know that I want to run my mixed media sort of from top to bottom with the cluster in the middle, and I'm going to use the pink, the orange, and the sort of navy blue Distress Oxide inks. And I do this because the colours in the papers that I've chosen, I sort of tried to work out which ones were sort of more dominant, and I got definitely a pop of pink and the navy, and then I thought to keep it in that sort of group of threes I would go with that sort of more orangey colour that I have in my stash. I didn't have the yellow, so I had to go with just the bit of a lighter orange. I think it works though. And so pulling a Vicki Boutin stencil after, I'm again using the same colours, but using them through a stencil just gives you that contrast. So it almost looks like it's white underneath, but it's not. It's purely just because we've darkened it up, and it was a little bit uneven, so I had to spread just a little bit more colour around just to balance it out. I mean, you could quite easily leave it like this. I wanted to just to give it a little bit more of something. So this is an iridescent, it's a very subtle, very light coloured white sort of shimmer spray, and I'm going to splatter it and then mop some of it up, which is going to give me that sort of contrast on the colour. Then I go with a little bit of gold, because you know who can have too much gold on a layout? A little bit of gold, same thing, mopping some of that up just so that it sinks into the paper and I don't have to sit and wait for it to dry. And then I wanted just a little bit of something more. I think this looks great. You know, I auditioned a doily. I didn't have the right size. It was going to take up too much of the layout, so I had to think it through a little bit more, and I pull out a stamp. So on my desk I have some commonly used items, some things that I want to use more, and in front of me is actually a shelf that my filming setup is housed on, and sometimes I'll just sit a few things there, and this stamp was sitting there. So it's a little text stamp. You can't see it well on the video, but you get the general idea in terms of just a little bit of pink text stamping. And I'm running a bit low on these certain type of florals, so I'm going to fussy cut a couple of those, and that's going to sort of give me the diamond effect that I'm essentially looking for with the background. So obviously the photo is the priority, and then I want to add a point at the top. So using a few florals, I'm going to mount some of those on some foam tape just for a little bit of added dimension, but a few little pieces from the ephemera, the pre-cut sort of florals that were still there. I don't have too many of them left, but there's a couple there that can be added. Lots of leaves. I haven't obviously used enough leaves, so I'm going to add a few leaves. This particular flower was white, and I didn't want it to be white, so adding a little bit of that same pink colour that I've used in my background. That's going to sit there and dry while I pop a few leaves and bits and pieces around. And then essentially in the final stages of this layout, I am going to add a few of the title pieces. So the little hearts. So obviously this is hubby and I, a few little bits and pieces there to add as well. But essentially this is my take on this collection, with a little bit of mixed media fun in the background and creating a cluster with paper and ephemera. So thank you so much for watching as always. I hope that you have enjoyed this layout. It is always my pleasure to share them, and even if you can pick up a little tip or a technique from how I've created today, I hope that you found something to inspire you. It's always fun to get creative and see what other people are working on. So thank you very much, and as always, happy scrapping.